All right, David's spent a good amount of time studying ways to capture leads of potential members for your sites. And he was kind enough to work in our blog and in this tip of the week today for 4 tips to develop a lead gen plan for your membership website. Dave, can you help us understand exactly what this means, developing a lead gen plan for your member site?
Yeah, so with membership and directory sites, oftentimes they're set up to generate leads, whether that be for the website owner to build a marketing list and a list of potential future customers and members, or if you're generating leads to then distribute to your existing professional members. So when you're developing either of these websites and you're trying to get them rolling, you really want to start off with a solid plan so that you have kind of a roadmap to follow rather than kind of just going into it blind, shooting for the stars without really any sort of direction. So hopefully these 4 tips will kind of get you thinking about some potential ways to generate leads for your website.
Yeah, and the way that I kind of felt about this presentation you put today, it's really a way on how to identify and capture email addresses of people who may be interested in joining your website as a user or a member.
Exactly. So we've put together 4 tips that should put you on the right path. So you're going to be able to collect emails of, like you said, interested users and members, be able to establish trust and credibility right from the start, which is arguably the most important aspect of all of this. And you're going to want to as well present your website as a seasoned and a professional company. That goes back into establishing that trust and credibility, and also to demonstrate the value that your website provides to its members so that they can clearly see that they're getting something out of it. It's worth their while to sign up, to pay, whatever it is you're offering.
So I want to make a tip about this. When we started Brilliant Directories about 10 years ago, the other co-founder, Matthew Brooks, and I, our first directory, well, I had one myself for interior designers, and Matt had one for finding mural artists, muralists. And then we combined our forces. And when we first started building Brilliant Directories, we really just built it as a way to launch more membership and directory sites for ourselves. And so with the click of a button, we would buy domain names and then we'd launch sites. And we realized that just having the site online, it didn't work. With the tips in here, it's kind of what we use. So when we would launch the sites appeared credible. They offered something to potential users, and they actually came to life. They weren't just like a directory list here. It had these elements to it which did everything David says, like establishing trust and credibility. And these were sites we just launched in a day, and we put them online, and then we did some soft marketing, and lo and behold, people would actually join or engage the site. They would sign up for free. We had some paid signups. People would email in. So we were able to pique interest and rapidly launch a bunch of sites in many different verticals. Some were more successful than others. But I'm a big believer in what we're about to present on today because we've tried and tested it ourselves, and it will help you out, especially if you're getting started, and especially if you just have 1 or 2 website projects and you can give more attention to them. We were trying to just scale and do things in bulk. I don't think that was necessarily the right or wrong thing, but that's what we were doing 10 years ago. So if you do this and you just have 1 or 2 projects that you're working on at a time, I think you have a high success rate with being able to at least capture and identify people who might be interested in joining your site. All right, Dave, let's dive right into it. If you can take us with tip number 1 here.
Sure. So what you really want to do is take this entire process step by step. Don't try to rush into it or set goals that may be difficult to achieve, at least from the start. A lot of times when people think about starting a lead gen site, they immediately think about generating revenue. And ultimately, that's probably the goal for most of you who do have a lead generation site. However, when we're starting this process to develop a lead generation plan for our website, we want to get to the root of what it is we're trying to do. And ultimately, that's generating leads, that's collecting email addresses. So one of the common pitfalls is to focus too much on that pricing and pummeling those potential customers with offers to purchase or join. And really what you want to do is you want to focus on what those potential members need and how you can provide that to them. So really focus on building that email list. Do some research to figure out what it is these potential customers and members, what it is they really want, and how you can provide that to them. We'll get into this in a couple slides, but you can provide certain things to them for free, and free obviously in quotes. they'll be providing you with their email address. And so you're generating leads that way, and you can build your email list and kind of build trust over time with them. And so that sales cycle may grow out to a couple weeks, maybe a couple months before they end up actually joining your website or purchasing whatever it is you're offering. But you really want to kind of take it slow. Just focus on building your email list, collecting those email addresses, and you can use different methods to go about doing that. And so we'll discuss that in the upcoming slides.
Also, another thing, there's an indirect value here. When you're not focused on charging them for their membership and you're trying to provide more upfront value, it does show that you have confidence in your product, that you care about the community at large. They're not going to come to you and see that, oh, you're just about trying to bill them. So that can kind of disarm any doubts that they might have of your intentions as an organization and a company. And generally, if you're focused on capturing emails, you're collecting those emails by exchanging something of value for free. And like David said, we're going to talk about that in the next slide. But that means that you're giving them something of value before you're even talking about dues and fees and membership prices with them. So it can actually have a benefit focusing on capturing emails because you're focusing on providing value right from the start. We've talked about this in previous webinars. Tell us some things that we can offer for free to people who might be browsing our site or just stumble upon our company.
Yeah, we've discussed this a lot of times in previous webinars, but going back to kind of the tried and true methods, one of the simplest ways is just to suggest to people to subscribe to your newsletter. Now you're going to want to sell them a little bit, tell them why they should join your newsletter, what it is you're going to be offering. You don't want to be pummeling them with offers and constant email updates multiple times a day or even every day. You'll want to kind of space it out over time. Maybe if you have a local website, give them the top 3 best new restaurants that opened up in the past month or something like that. You can also provide them with a free trial period of your website, a free initial sign up, provide them with an ebook, a guide, a pamphlet, some kind of PDF download that would be useful to them. Or even if you are putting on events or any of your members are putting on events, you can promote some of those events. Try to have these potential future members or customers register for those events, collect their contact information that way. Maybe it's an online event like a workshop or a webinar. So you can kind of get creative with some of these elements and figure out different ways to go about collecting these people's email addresses. But ultimately, you want to go back to that main point, which is you want to figure out what it is they need and how you can provide that to them, preferably for free, so that you can get those email addresses.
And also with all these options and methods to kind of trade an email address for something of value. For example, subscribe to newsletter. There is that module in the sidebar that comes with most of the BD sites. It would be worth your while to build out a dedicated page that talks about the benefits of subscribing to the newsletter, what they can expect by being a subscriber, and some other benefits of joining. And you could use that process and approach with everything that you're going to potentially be offering for free in exchange for those email addresses. So really think about decorating the value and highlighting the value for the person to take the action and take the time to enter their email address. Don't just assume that they're going to passively subscribe to our newsletter. That's a good starting point, but tell them why and grab their attention a bit more to motivate them and encourage them to actually fill out that form so you can capture that email address. And of course, with these email addresses, they're now in your pipeline, they're now part of your tribe, and you can figure out how or what you're going to offer to them next now that they're in your ecosystem.
Yeah, I think you touched on a good point. Try to put yourself in the place of these visitors to your website. A lot of us are pretty skeptical about giving out our personal information nowadays. In this case, it would be our email addresses, what with spam and all of that. And so you really want to put yourself in the place of these people. What do you need to say to them to build that initial trust, get them willing to provide you with their email address, make it worth their while so that they know they're getting what it is they need and they're not kind of signing up for either something that'll just spam them or that's not going to be useful to them and is just going to waste their time. So put yourself in their shoes and try to look at it that way so that you can get a better perspective of how to go about your messaging.
All right, the third one is actually, it's one of the easiest things, but Again, I see a lot of people not doing this on their sites. It's basically adding high quality and presentable content to your site. And it really is a case of quality over quantity. Another pitfall I see, people fall into when they're first setting up their sites is their main menu on their site, the main menu bar. They try to pack as many pages as possible in there. And while it looks cool that your site has all those things, you're actually diluting the value of some of your most important pages, like your mission or an about page that explains what you can do. Maybe you have a page on testimonials, and every page you add to the main menu, it is diluting the overall value and the direction you're trying to push potential people to on your site. So with everything, it really is a matter of quality over quantity. And I think, Dave, you also wrote the next point here, simplicity over complexity. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what you mean by simplicity versus complexity?
Yeah, this again goes back to putting yourself in the shoes of the website visitor. You as the website owner, builder, developer, you know what it is you're offering. You know what the website's capable of. Somebody coming to your website for the first time doesn't necessarily know that. So you have to, again, really put yourself in their shoes. How can you explain it simply to them so that they immediately understand what it is you're providing? Think of your entire website kind of as an elevator pitch. You want to be able to convey what it is you're offering, what the website does, what your goal is, your mission statement, as quickly and efficiently as possible without causing any confusion on the user's end.
And also the clear messaging throughout your website, email, and marketing content, and pages that support your mission and goal. Those tie in to the simplicity and the quality. I would rather prefer, and honestly, this is somebody that worked with someone from the developer marketplace, and this is their free sign-up page. And they just used some simple CSS, but they wanted it to be more than just a title. So they just spent more time creating a better design or look, or just adding a few elements. It's nothing fancy here. Here's the sign-up form. It just has some stuff at the top with an image. And they added this here to help increase subscriber signups. And I spoke with this person, and it is working very well. And they don't have many pages of information. They just have a few, but they're really investing time to make those pages powerful and really resonate what the website is trying to connect with the specific member, and the benefits of why people should engage with the site and join the site or subscribe to the site. So spending some extra time on just a few key important pages will help a lot with converting your potential visitors into members, or at least collecting their email addresses for some of the free offerings you're going to have.
I think this is a great example. If you actually go back to that for a minute, I think it's worth spending 1 or 2 minutes kind of dissecting this a little bit, picking out the key elements that really make it a well-converting page. The first one would just be that it's warming, it's inviting, it's welcoming. Immediately, we kind of have a good feeling when we're looking at the page. Second, there's not a lot of content on it. It's basically a heading, a short little paragraph, and then some bullets on the side of the page. So we're not being bombarded with text where it's kind of overwhelming and we immediately feel like, I don't have time for this, I don't want to deal with it, I don't want to try to figure out what's going on, I'm just going to leave. Instead, it's kind of the opposite. It's really simple. It's easy to figure out what this page is about at a glance. Obviously, there's a really high quality image there, so that gives us a good feeling. And then the subscriber benefits, so we know what it is we're getting. You could replace that with a testimonial, which would kind of do a similar thing, explain the benefits of why you should join this website. So there's really only a small handful of elements on this page, maybe 3 or 4, but those small elements really add up to make it an inviting and well-converting page.
Exactly. And again, it really connects with the person, and it really gives them an offer they can't refuse. Why? If you're the target market or target demographic for this site, they've really given you no excuse not to register as a free user. I even like the benefits that they mentioned. It's kind of the built-in features of the platform, like bookmarking your favorite articles, asking the business experts, which is just basically sending sending messages to them. And then they say accessing curated jobs and events. They have those as members only content, and as well as contributing community articles and so much more. So you can use the built-in features that come with your Brilliant Directory site as the reasons why people should join your site or subscribe. All right, and yeah, remove thin or unnecessary web pages. Less is definitely more, and just focus on really making those few pages that you have excellent. And please, we mentioned this always in all the webinars, use high quality images. You can just Google free stock photos and make sure that you're using them throughout your site. You don't even need a lot of images, just a good, again, less is more, quality over quantity, just a few good quality images that really set the mood and tone for your site. All right, and tip number 4, gather and promote testimonials. Even if you're brand new, some of your early members, your early adopters can be your biggest ambassadors. And it's important to not only reward them for their early participation on your site, but you want to try to establish a loyal relationship and reciprocity with them, their feedback, and creating a good relationship with them. They're going to be your biggest advocates as you move forward. So try to gather testimonials. They're just going to encourage other people who may be on the fence or discovering your company for the first time. And that might just be the extra edge they need to make a decision to trust your company and join your organization. So just to go through these bullet points here, testimonials really are your company's best friend, and it could be the biggest differentiator between you and a competitor's website. Generally, people want to see social proof. Social proof is that other people have had success or trust or enjoy using your product or service. So people do trust things that others appear to trust as well. Testimonials reassure new members that they're spending their money wisely, or at least it's worth their time to move forward by trusting this organization, even if you're doing something in exchange for free, like an ebook or a free subscription to your newsletter or something like that. Also, consider proper placements of testimonials. You don't want them to be in the way of your main content. Generally, you want it to supplement your main content. So it can be on your homepage, potentially after your main hero message on your homepage. It could be nicely positioned in your sidebar, the sidebar of a sign-up page or registration page. Just make sure that it's easily accessible, not buried too deep. But it doesn't necessarily need to be the main content of the page unless it is an entire page of people's testimonials about your product or service. And then lastly, the testimonials really emphasize how well liked your company, service, or organization is by other users. And the more honest and raw the story is for that testimonial, the more trustworthy it is and the more relatable that testimonial is, and the harder that testimonial will be working for you behind the scenes as people are browsing and researching your company. Okay, so those are the 4 points to kind of capture leads of people who are browsing your site or researching your company. Once you capture those leads, then you're going to want to figure out a plan to follow up with them, to maybe at that point you let them know how they can participate further with your site, the membership level options, and so forth. But at least your site's going to be working to capture leads of people who are interested in your product or service.